Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mystery Sports Podcast. Today, obviously, a bit of a quick stream. The transfer window shut. The WSL is back on this weekend, and just a bit of breaking news of the obvious. A lot of people might have heard about Grimsby being fined £20,000. But yeah, so first, let's get into it. So, obviously, the transfer window has now shut. Obviously, it did shut on Monday, 7 p.m. Obviously, I've let a few days go past now to make sure that all the transfers have gone through. I mean, there are a couple that haven't gone through fully yet, but obviously they'll make it official soon. Obviously, Manchester United have made their goalkeeper Sinan Lemons official yesterday. Obviously, wearing the number 31 now. Liverpool obviously making Isak official. It'll be their number 9. Obviously, they missed out on Mark Guay. Obviously, he's returned. Well, or is staying at Crystal Palace for the rest of this season. Obviously, with Guay, though, it's a bit of a different situation than it is to like other people where their transfers have just like folded. Guay's actually only got a year left on his contract, and his contract does run out at the end of this year. So obviously in January, that does mean that if any clubs do want him, so today obviously Bayern Munich have come out and said they want to offer 35 million to Crystal Palace for Mark Guay. Obviously, if Palace accepts it, then obviously Gay can sign a contract in the January transfer window, meaning that in the summer, once the window opens in the summer, he's effectively a Bayern Munich player. Obviously, that is quite interesting. Obviously, Liverpool have had 2 bids rejected, or 1 bid rejected by Palace, and then the second bid obviously accepted, but couldn't get the deal done in time of the transfer window. So, saying that though, that is a bit of a negative on Liverpool, but just a bit of a positive. I mean, obviously being a United fan, I wouldn't always want to say the positives about about Liverpool, but they did win the transfer window by a clear mile. Obviously, they're spending £446.5 million on players, which is broke the records. I think Chelsea's was only about 350 million when they bought Mudryk and Jackson and things like that in a couple of seasons ago. Obviously spending £446.5 million on just players is mental. And the players who they've bought in, Wirtz, Ekitike, Isak, Frimpong, just after Kirkes, they've brought in so many players, and they've all got great quality. They're just brilliant players on the ball. They know what to do when it comes to like those big moments, like Kirkes against Arsenal. Madueke was going past him, but then Kirkes was just making up and making sure that he didn't give a penalty away, and he was making sure that his tackles were obviously perfect in stopping obviously Madueke from scoring a goal or having a shot at target. I think obviously Wirtz, everyone knows that Wirtz is a proven quality. Everyone knows he's world class. Look at what he did at Bayer Leverkusen. It was fantastic under Xavi Alonso and playing that number 10 position. And I think come time, Wirtz will definitely do the same for Liverpool. I just think Wirtz is one of those players that needs that time, just to a couple of months maybe, or a couple of weeks, just to settle in with the squad, get his connection with the players around him, and then will just thrive and start getting those goals and assists that he did for Bayer Leverkusen. And I think this would be the same with Isak as well. I think Isak will probably hit the ground running in his first game. He'll probably score quite a few goals. Obviously, everyone knows his talent in the Premier League. However, I do think that he might take a couple games just to click with Salah and to click with the wingers, Gakpo for Liverpool. But I think Liverpool, the transfers that they've made this summer, just has taken them from there, just took them above the rest. And I think there's very little's going to stop them. I did say to a couple of mates that I do think the only way that Liverpool don't win this league is that if City do a job against them, Arsenal beat them at the Emirates, Newcastle gave them a tough game at St James's Park, and Newcastle can give anyone a tough game. People are going to laugh at me for this, but I think if you United as well. And before everyone says in the comments, or what you're talking about, United are going to do a job against Liverpool. Cast your mind about when United played Liverpool at Anfield last season. United came into that game expected to get battered. Everyone was saying another 9-0, another 7-0, another, it could be a 9-0, could be 10-0, whatever. Liverpool going to absolutely dominate you. What happened in that game? United drew 2-2. United should have gone and won that game 3-2. If it weren't for Maguire who had that shot, if that was someone else like Bruno, you never know, it could have been 3-2 United. And obviously everyone would be like, well done to Man United, just brilliant performance. And they still did. Despite us drawing, we played exceptionally well in that game. So really, I think with Liverpool, regards to them winning the league, I think they can definitely win the league. However, I do think that there will be some difficult games there, but with the transfers that they've made, they're just so clear. I think just with how the players they brought in, so Frimpong's world class, was arguably one of the best 10s in the world. Obviously, he's one of the best strikers in the Premier League, possibly the world, and even Kirk is obviously up and coming left back, but he's with Bournemouth last year, looked amazing. But obviously, it will still be interesting. Obviously, anything can happen in the Premier League. We're not sure. Anything could happen. You never know. Liverpool might lose 2-3 games in the bounce, which I highly doubt that would happen. However, you never know. So just moving on now. Obviously, the WSL is back on this year. So for those of you who don't know what the WSL stands for, is the Women's Super League. So it's like the Premier League for the women's. Obviously, last year Chelsea winning the WSL unbeaten. Amazing achievement for them. They're always a standout team in the women's game. Well, in the English side of the women's game, they're just a brilliant side. I think obviously Arsenal winning the Champions League last year, so it did very well for both English clubs. Chelsea and Arsenal got quite far into those Champions League latter stages. I think they did represent the women's game very well. Obviously, there's a lot of quality there. Obviously, off the back of the Euros wins as Euro win for the Lionesses, brilliant. I mean, much better than the men's at the moment. I can't fault them. Brilliant from Chloe Kelly. Obviously, she's still at Arsenal on loan. I think. She's still possibly fighting for that permanent transfer there to Arsenal. But just a couple of stats or percentages that I've got about the chances of them winning. Obviously, United doing quite well last year, finishing third. Obviously, Arsenal just pipped them, but they've the odds for the winners of the WSL. The Chelsea have got a 72.4% chance of winning. City are then second with 13.6. Then Arsenal with 10.1, and then Manchester United with 3.9% chance of winning. And I think it's quite surprising to see United that low. The only thing that springs to mind for me is that when United were last qualifying for the Champions League, United's league performance wasn't so good. But then we did really well in the cup competitions, like the FA Cup, and we went on to win that year. So that could be a factor that's put them percentages there. But I do think that Manchester United have got a very good chance of even pushing for that WSL title like they did a couple seasons ago with Chelsea. I mean, City look like they're building something, obviously with a 13.6%. Obviously, it's not as much as Chelsea do of Chelsea's proportion of the percentage. However, I do think that for the prediction for what the top five top four should be, probably will be Chelsea winning the league. I think United will finish second, Arsenal, then Manchester City. However, I do think it will be a very, very tight battle between United, Arsenal, and City. Just that there are always a close battles there. I think Chelsea are just going to absolutely obliterate the league once again. The quality that they've got, Lauren James, obviously just a standout performance last year, and I think she won their Player of the Season. She scored quite a few goals last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if she did the same thing again. So the opening fixtures. So I mean, the standout fixture is obviously on Friday, the 5th of September, 7:30 kickoff. Chelsea versus Manchester City. Chelsea obviously holders. City obviously second favourites to win the WSL. I think that'll be a very interesting game. Then a first time appearance for the London City Football Club in the WSL. Obviously, just recently signing Katie Zellum, ex-Manchester United captain. I think London City versus Arsenal could be a very, very interesting game. I think either it could go two ways. Either Arsenal destroy them and batter them about 3-4-0, 5-0, or London City come into the WSL, keep it tight, and possibly cause an upset in there. So Manchester United have got Leicester City, and I think it should be an easy win for United. I think a few seasons ago they battered them 7-0. So fingers crossed that United can do the same. Oh, well, it'd be amazing if they won 7-0, but obviously get off to a flying start. Obviously, there also is the Merseyside derby as well on Sunday at 12 p.m. kickoff. I think Liverpool will win that game. However, I think it'll be a tight game. It's always usually a tight game between the two Merseyside clubs. I think it could be a 2-1 victory for Liverpool. Just now moving on, just to obviously the breaking news yesterday that Grimsby were fined £20,000 for registering a player who too late, a minute late for the Carabao Cup fixture against United. Obviously, no matter what I say here, people will be like, it's embarrassing that you are wanting to appeal for this decision. Because United have got 4 days now to appeal the decision. It is embarrassing that we have to appeal to get our place back into the Carabao Cup against Grimsby Town, a League Two side. However, I'm going to throw this at you. What happens if it was the other way around? What happens if it was United who went and won that 3-2? Shesko scored the winner, and United signed Shesko a minute late. I think if that happened, I guarantee everybody, by United fans, would be like, kick him out of the tournament, getting rid of him. £20,000 isn't enough for United. They should be paying millions of pounds. Kick United out of the tournament and stuff like that. So why is it the same with Grimsby? Because it's Grimsby, the League Two side. Everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter, let him go. Sorry, but rules are there to be put in place, and rules are there not to be broken. And Grimsby have broken it. I think even Darren Bent said this, a massive Arsenal fan on TalkSport. He said, an ex-Arsenal player, what? Even though it's Grimsby Town, they've broke the rule, so they should be kicked out. And that I stand that United should go and appeal for this decision and go and get themselves back into that competition. Because even though he came on for 20 minutes, people might argue that he's not done anything. He missed his penalty. Okay, he's missed his penalty, but in that 20 minutes, he definitely had an impact on the pitch. He's either made a pass, he could have took a shot on, or he could have blocked a pass that could have led United to score a goal. I know people might also say, oh, well, that United were never going to win that anyway, or whatever. But any little interception or pass he did, any impact, any sort of thing he did on that pitch impacted that game. And because he wasn't registered, it means that whatever happens, Grimsby have broke the rules. And if United were put in a position where they couldn't score because of that player, or he had something to influence United not scoring, then obviously there's issues there, and they should be kicked out of the tournament. I think, don't get me wrong, well done to Grimsby Town. They played amazing, obviously. However, they broke the rules, and if you break the rules, you should be punished, and it should be a kick out of the tournament. It shouldn't be a fine, because if it was any other, if it was United, if it was Arsenal, if it was City, and that happened to them, City didn't register. Let's say it was Ryan Days. City didn't register Ryan Days against any team in a cup competition. Everyone would be like, kick them out of the tournament. It's not fair. They're just cheating. And look at how everything is with the FFP and how City have got 115 charges. Obviously, I'm going to believe that City have to get punished for that, because you can't be seen to have done something. If you're proven not guilty, then fair enough. But this is quite clear and obvious that they registered that player a minute late, and that means he should not have been allowed to play that game. So personally, I think, even though it is very, very harsh on Grimsby Town, I think that they should be kicked out of the tournament. Doesn't matter if everyone says, "Oh, it's harsh." United don't deserve to be in, but sorry, we've not cheated. We've lost on penalties. We're not cheated. We didn't hand push the ball into the net. We didn't do anything stupid. Grimsby are the ones who cheated, so they should be kicked out. If it was like an like say if I'm doing my A levels, say if I have a coursework submission date and I submit it, and this is the final date, and I submit it 5 minutes late. 1 second. Sorry about that. Just a bit of speak to my mum. Never mind. Let's go. Right, so where was I? So if it was my A levels, right, and I submitted my coursework for 5 minutes late, obviously I'd get reprimanded for that. So it should be the same kind of thing there with Grimsby Town. Yeah, obviously United, I think they should appeal. They've got 4 days to do it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it for today. Obviously, sorry about that last little bit there. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I'll probably do another stream end of this week for about the F1 and the WSL, and then obviously international break as well. So yeah, have a good rest of your day. See you later. Bye bye.